situation, and he's about to kill him. So where are we holding in chapter 20? Where do we get up to? Here we are. Kaf. Let's start from Kaf Zayin. No. I'm sorry. Way before. So the plan is that when there's a Rosh Chodesh meal coming up tomorrow, David will be absent from the table. And as a result, let's see what the reaction of Shaul is. Here we go, Pasuk Kaf Daled. Vayisater David basadeh. David hides out in the field. Vayya Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh has arrived. Vayeshev HaMelech El Halechem. Even though it's written with an I and it's understood as if El, meaning to the bread, to the meal, Lechol. And now let's see how the situation is. How are they sitting down at the king's table? Okay, who sits where? And notice what the Tanakh is even teaching us. It says in Pasuk Kafeh, Vayeshev HaMelech Al Moshavo, the king. He's called the king, even though his kingdom was torn up, but it hasn't been public yet. He realizes that he's losing out in time. He's losing out in the ability to rule. And where does he sit? Kefa'am befam el moshav akir. He has a distinctive place. It's somewhere next to the wall. And by the way, would you please remind me, during biblical Tanakhic times, when people would sit down to a meal, how would they sit? No, not from that point of view. On couches, what did you say? Right. On couches, on the mattresses, which is reminding us of the Seder night, right? The Pesach night, that's right. Exactly. So the minhag was, then they didn't sit with, tables of such, rather sitting comfortably, reclining, hasava, what we call. And the king, that's where he's sitting. Now it states here, and we have to ask why, Vayakom Jehonathan. Jehonathan gets up. And we're going to ask ourselves, why is he standing up? He's one of the invitees. He's the son of the king. And then it says, Vayeshev Avner mitzad Shaul. Who's the chief of staff of Shaul's army? Avner ben Ner, which later, unfortunately, we learn in the beginning of Shmuel Bet, he's assassinated by David's nephew. And Avner ben Ner, Avner, he's the head of the army. He's sitting mitzad Shaul, on one of the sides of the king. That's where he's sitting. Now, Vayipaked Mekom David. There's a place that's empty. Which place? And that is David's place. Now, let's just say this. The situation would be the following. The king, David, was like the head of the army, and then Jehonathan. Now, who's not here? David. You see an empty place. Who's on the other side? Avner is on the other side. It's quite noticeable that no one's sitting next to the king on one side. Is that the reason why David gets up? Well, if David would be, is that the why Jehonathan gets up? No. Jehonathan usually is there, but he's not in front of his father. The question I wanted to pose to you, can you or not, at the Seder night, recline in front of your father? Can you recline in front of your father, or are you not allowed? What question are we dealing with? Huh? Oh, we're not kibud avein, but not kibud, but the opposite of kibud. What is it called? Yirah. Okay. We have a mitzvah of honoring parents. We have a mitzvah of fear. Honoring is going out and doing things, bringing them something to drink, bringing them their shoes, doing errands for them. Yirah, fear. How do we fulfill the mitzvah of Yirah Torim? How do we feel the mitzvah of fear of parents? Oh, I don't. Abba, you're wrong. No, you don't say to Abba, you're wrong. You can say, Abba, could it be otherwise? We can't do that. What else do we not do? We don't sit in your place. We don't talk bad to them, and so on and so forth. What are we supposed to do on the Seder night as far as the way we sit? We lean, hasava. Especially when we drink the 4 cups of wine, when we eat the matzah, there's a mitzvah called hasava. Kulanu misubim. We're all reclining. Now, does a son in front of his father, does he recline? 1 second. So, whereas a student of his rabbi, does he recline? Okay? So the Shulchan Aruch says the following. I want to read you the Shulchan Aruch. Where would I find these laws?
On the Shulchan Aruch?
On the Seder. The laws of Pesach. On the Seder, right? Siman Taf Ayin Bet, 472, Sefer. The Shulchan Aruch writes, Ben Eitzel Aviv Tzarich Hasava. Okay? If a son is sitting by his father's Seder, he does have to recline. Afilu Rabbo Mufak, even if he is the rabbi that's teaching most of his Torah. Whereas, Talmid Lifnei Rabbo, a disciple before his rabbi, Eino Tzarich Hasava, he doesn't require. Vafilu Eino Rabbo Mufak. Now, why does it say a son needs Hasava reclining? Even though that the son is obligated what? Both to honor and to fear his parents. However, you know what? If the father has invited his son to be at the Seder night, what is most likely the father has done? Machil libnei. He's provided mechila. Meaning, I'm pardoning my honor. I'm allowing you to sit in front of me in a reclining way. You know, the way we sit in a reclining way, that's not really reverence, that's not fear in front of a parent. And therefore, we go according to logic. Logic says a father, why did he invite him over? He wants them to be over. So he's pardoning his honor, and therefore a son in front of his father can recline without a problem. I remember, but a student before his rabbi doesn't do asava because he has to show fear, and usually the rabbi is not going to do away with the fact that he has to fear him. When I was invited as a student in Beit El by my Rabbi, my Rosh Yeshiva, he invited me to the Seder night. I didn't have any family here. My chief, so my rabbi invited me. I learned the halacha before him. I went to my Rav and asked, "Is it okay if I recline at the table before in front of the Rav?" He says, "No problem. You can do it." So you need permission from your Rav that he's like pardoning the matter of having fear in front of your Rav, and therefore I too reclined. Yeah.
I know a loophole how you could avoid that you could lean in front of the rabbi and your Abba. I don't know if it's a good loophole. That's why I'm asking you. With my Abba, I can still fear my Abba. Sorry, using the word him. I can still fear my Abba while sitting with him. If I lean, that's because I know he might smack me at any second, so I still have fear for him. And if I'm sitting next to you, I know you can grab me like this at any second over the table. So if I lean away, I'm still having fear.
It's okay. So
that doesn't work.
Right. So now, before your question, let's apply this. Do you or not understand why Jehonathan stood up? There's a gap between his father and David's place. And usually, if he would lie down and recline there, he wouldn't even be seen because David's like blocking his position. Now, there's no one there to block his position. So therefore, what is Jehonathan doing? He's now standing up because he doesn't want to recline in front of his father. That's what it says. Vayakom Jehonathan. That means a moment ago he was sitting or reclining, and we're thinking he's getting up from the position of reclining. This matter, gentlemen, Rashi brings here on this place. שלא בדוד, לא ייסב יונתן עד שישב אבנר מצד שאול, ואחר כך ישב יונתן מצד אבנר. כן, okay, what do you want to say, David?
So
I'm waiting.
Proper household, you do not lean at the dinner table.
For fear out of your rabbi, but if you're at your father's table or at the Seder table, it's likely that he doesn't mind and you can do it. But it's best always to ask in any event. Okay.
If you're sitting at like a dinner table with chairs,
So that's not like reclining. Yeah, that's like semi-reclining. We're just, making up.
then it seemed like you're being too comfortable.
Right. We don't want you to be too comfortable in front of your father, but it's the reclining then was reclining literally, like you said, on mattresses, on beds, and so on and so forth. Okay. What happens now that David is not there? Jehonathan has stood up. The king looks this way. Vayipaked mekom David. It's noticeable. You see the end of 25. It's noticeable that the place of David is empty. Pasuk Kavav, verse 26. Velo diber shol me'uma bayamo. You know that? On that first day, when they had the meal and any other activities, Shaul doesn't open up his mouth. He doesn't say one thing. And we're asking ourselves why. So the Tanakh says maybe what's going on in his mind. Ki amar mikrehu. Bilti tohoru, kilo tohor. These are terms that are used in the Chumash for someone that we had, it's called a balkari. Someone had an incident at night. Let's say someone had relations with his wife. Okay? Now, to eat kodeshim, indeed, he would have to go to a mikveh. But to eat chulin, what is chulin? Mundane matters, no holy matters. You don't have to go to a mikveh to do this.
To take a shower or a mikveh?
Yeah, for holy matters. Holy matters. It's called in the language of the Torah, mikra, from the word keri. You saw? Seed. So here, what is the Tanakh sharing with us? I know why he didn't come today, because he hasn't found a mikveh, and therefore didn't come to eat the meal. It's a regular meal, by the way. It's mundane food. It's not a holy meal. But David was so Hasidic, saintly, he would be strict even to eat regular food, only in a state of ritual purity. So that's what Shaul is thinking. That's why David didn't show up the first day. Okay, fine. This is what he's thinking apparently. I don't think the Tanakh means that he's talking about this outwardly. Day number 1 passes. By the way, where's David in the meantime? He's hiding somewhere in the fields, waiting for signals. Pasuk Kav Zayin 27. Vayimi mochorat hachodesh hasheni. No, it does not mean the day after the second month. It means the day after Rosh Chodesh on the second day. They're having a regular meal. Look inside Pasuk Kav Zayin 27 if you can. Vayipaked mekom David. Again, we notice David's place is empty. Vayomer Shola Jehonathan beno. He asks him, his son, Madua lova ven Yishai gam timo gam hayom el alachem. What do you notice unusual in his question? What do you notice? He calls him Ben Yishai and not David. This is already, shall we call this a measure of sarcasm? He's not honoring and calling him David, but rather the son of Yishai. And he asks his son, why wasn't he here? Not yesterday and not today. Pasuk Kavchet. And now the made-up answer according to the plan. 28. Again, we're in chapter 20, Shmuel Aleph, this great meeting between David, Shaul, and the father. And Jehonathan, I'm sorry. Vayan Jehonathan et Shaul. He answers his father, Nish'ol nish'al David me'imadi. I was asked for permission. He asked me permission. Ad Beit Lachem. He asked me for permission to go and not to be at the table. Vayomer, 29, Kaftet. Shalchenina. Okay? What did he ask of me? Shalchenina, send me please. Why is he asking to be sent? Ki zevach mishpacha lanu ba'ir. In our town, in the town of what? Beit Lechem, we have a zevach, we have a sacrifice, we have a meal there for the family. Vutzivali achi. Now he says something second. My brother commanded me. Who is his brother, gentlemen? Eliav. Do you remember the oldest brother is Eliav? Is there a mitzvah to respect an older brother? There certainly is. So my brother, by the way, David was the youngest, wasn't he? My older brother commanded me what? To be there. So he's basically using this language, Jehonathan, saying that not only is it a family event, but his oldest brother commanded him to be there. V'ata now, imatzati chen be'inecha. He's now, remember, Jehonathan is relaying the message of what happened. And if I find favor in your eyes, meaning I, David, find favor in your eyes, Jehonathan, imaltana ve'eretachai. Now look at the wording he uses here. Imalta, let me get out of here. Let me escape. Why does Jehonathan use the word, let me just get out of here, imaltana, meaning let me be rescued from this table, from this work of the king. There are those that explain that he wants to arouse. I heard a show once from Shimon Klein, my Rosh Yeshiva son-in-law was a big Tanakh teacher. He used this expression in order maybe to arouse the opposition of Shaul and reveal the truth, what's going on in his mind, what's going on in his heart. And therefore he diverted the regular word and used, not just may I go, but may I just get out of here, may I escape, get out of here. Okay? Al Kain, therefore, Lova, he's not here. El Shulchan Amelech. Okay. The give and take, the correspondence has been issued, all this is made up, and now we're waiting to see the reaction of Shaul. If it's good, then the coast is clear, and if it's bad, this will be the end of the relationship, at least one-on-one between David and Jehonathan, because then David will have to get out of here as fast as possible. Gentlemen, one of the most severe, one of the most strongest reactions we've seen in the entire Tanakh between a father and son. We're about to read right now. Fasten your seatbelts. Pasuk Lamed. Vayichar afsho bi Jehonathan. He's so angry at his son Jehonathan. Vayomer lo, and he says, Ben na'avat mardut. You, the son of the perverse, the rebellious. Ben na'avat mardut. Meaning you're the son of a woman that's perverse, that she's in movement. Na'avat, maybe from the word lanua. Your mother's always on the move. Your mother was not educated the right way. Rashi says mardut. She's worthy to afflict her. She's worthy of hitting her. Your mother. Why? Okay? Isn't that amazing? Meaning, Halo yadati, I certainly knew. Ki vocher ata leven Yishai levoshtecha. You're the one that's chosen Ben Yishai, meaning versus as opposed to me. Okay? We have a conflict. Who will Jehonathan the son give his loyalty to? Will he give it to his father Shaul, or will he give it to his best friend David? You're the one that's choosing. You prefer Ben Yishai levoshtecha, to your shame. Ulevoshet ervati mecha. Oy vavoy. It seems that, my dear friends, that he's also embarrassing his wife. He's embarrassing the mother of Jehonathan. He's shaming her. He's basically saying, maybe your mother prostituted. That's what some of the Mefarshim say. So, wow, isn't this terrible? So in the context of this dialogue, Aleph, Shaul is fuming. Bet, he insults Jehonathan terribly, and he's basically he's cursing his wife, and saying that you have the character trait of like a Ben Zonah, a son of a prostitute or something like that. Why? He continues to speak. Pasuk Kaf Lamed Aleph. After embarrassing Jehonathan's mother and saying these terrible things, and you learn from your mother not to be respectful, you learn from your mother not to be loyal, Lamed Aleph, Ki chol hayamim asher Ben Yishai chai al ha'adama. As long as Ben Yishai is alive on earth, lo tikon ata umalchutecha. Wow. You, Jehonathan, your kingdom will never be established. In other words, you're fired. You're not going to be my, what is the word, successor? Is that the word? You're not going to be my successor to the king. You're not going to have the king. So it was clear, what we've been explaining over the last chapters, that Shaul had hoped that whoever's going to take over would be his son. But now he has no hope whatsoever. What?
Could it also maybe mean that Shaul knows now that David will replace him? And,
He's assuming that David will replace him. He's assuming
exactly. So he says, no, don't you understand that if David is still alive, you will never be the next king? Because David is going to take it.
As long as David is alive, you will not establish your malchut.
Yeah.
Okay? My dear friends, it seems here that he's saying in a very clear way, it's a shame the way you acted. It's a shame that you're supporting. I mean, you gave him a green light to leave my table. You didn't consult with me. You allowed him to go to Beit Lechem to his family. So, Jehonathan, you're not going to be a king. And this is a busha. It's a shame for you, and it's a shame for your mother. Now, I want to ask you all a question. Before we go, let's read the ending of the pasuk. This is even the most severe one. V'ata, and now, shalach, send a messenger. V'kachoto, arrest him. Eli, bring him to me. Kiven mavet hu. Wow. In the context of our understanding here, the king has declared that David is obligated death. Now, let's try to understand in practical terms. Halakha's halakha. Some of you have begun to learn the Rambam, Mishnah Torah, the laws of kings. Some of you know from the Gemara. What does the king have a right to do as far as judgment is concerned? In other words, he's allowed to punish not according to the law of the Torah. If he sees like there's a breach in society, that people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, he can pick on someone that's wrong, and he can execute the worst punishment, even though according to regular law, the person's not obligated. What is he accusing, do you think, David of that would be considered a capital offense? What capital? What?
Could accuse him of treason.
How? How is he accused of treason here? Let me hear. Very nice. Is David allowed? And what is Shaul?
Maybe.
What was he expecting, Shaul?
So he's already assuming that David wants to take over. So he's made
Treason is not a rule.
you can say that David's want to take over and he's starting rebelling against him.
So would you agree that maybe we can interpret this, the fact that someone left his table, the royal table, when he was expected to be there, and he left without the clear permission of the king? I don't care if you, the son, gave him permission. No, you're not allowed to leave. That's how one of the Rishonim, the Marikara, explains the fact that you left without my permission is treason. Furthermore, that was the first day. What is today? The second day. Where's David today? That's another reason for treason. 2 counts of treason. And Shaul is fuming and he says he's obligated that. Go bring him. Go fetch him.
It really doesn't make sense that Shaul expecting David, because last time Shaul wanted to kill David. David flew. There was no reconciliation. This was between the 2 kings. So why is he expecting him to come?
But the king cannot violate the Torah.
So, no, he's allowed to punish unlike the laws of the Torah. The Torah gave him the power. The Torah gave the power. He's allowed to punish unlike the laws of the Torah.
You kill anybody who wants.
Surely you would need cause.
There has to be some reason. We're talking about a king that has. But here, I think what the question that you're raising, David, I think is the answer to the question that David is asking. Shaul has lost his senses. I think Rabbi Feynman taught today the attribute of anger. When you're in anger, your mental faculties are not in control. You don't say things of good sense and logic and reason. Shaul, the Ruach Ra, this evil spirit inside him, he lost the Ruach Hashem inside him, and now he's thinking only bad against David. He can't think any positive now about David, and that's it. You're right. He's not making sense. He wants to kill him for not being at his table and not getting permission. This guy saved the Jewish people in every war he's fought until now. Look how many medals he has on his collar or something of that nature, right? You're absolutely right. Pasuk Lamed Bet. And now I want to ask you a question. Is there room for Jehonathan, who's strategic, he's a courageous, he's solid? Is there room to think that the gap can be, welded together? Is there reason to think that maybe David and Shaul the gap can be bridged together? Why? Because look what Jehonathan says in Lamed Bet 32. Vayan Jehonathan et Shaul avivi. He answers, he replies, and he respects him. Shaul aviv is his Abba. Vayomer elav, lama yumat? Why should he be died? Why should he be killed? Me'asa, what did he do? Everyone is asking, what's going on in Jehonathan's mind? He's rebuking his father and saying, Abba, this is not right. And everyone's asking, isn't there enough proof from the words of Shaul that he wants to kill David to this extent, that's what he wants to do? And therefore, if that's the case, why does Jehonathan even open up his mouth? Why does he even bother querying his father? That's what the people asked. Isn't there enough testimony what the king wants to do to David? Okay? L'chora, what Shaul said, and we can imagine the tone of his speech, the way we're speaking. We can imagine without hearing him that he's bawling out his son. He's insulting his wife, the mother of the child. Terrible thing, shaming his son, shaming the mother of the child. How are you favoring a friend over the king, your father? So I once heard an answer from Rav Shimon Klein, like I told you before, the son-in-law of my Rosh Hashiva. He would say the following: Jehonathan has still a doubt in his mind. Is this right now complete disattachment between two great individuals? David, who represents the house of Judah, and my father Shaul, who represents the house of which tribe? Binyamin. Are right now the two houses, Judah and Binyamin, to have to be separated? Or is there a way to bridge the tremendous gap here? Or do I have to raise my hands and say that's it? He wanted to test the situation still. And therefore he tries to rebuke his father. Abba, why should he be killed? What did he sin? Like you asked. The same question you asked. And that you answered as well. There's no logic in what you're saying, Abba. So he's trying to rebuke his father. Maybe his father is talking sense into his father. Let's see what his father does. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Vayatel Shaul et hachanit alav lahakoto. Wow. Two different meanings here. What is Vayatel? According to the Targum, it says Va'arim, meaning leharim. He raised the spear in his hand. But you should know that there are Rishonim. Who did I see? That he explains that indeed he released the spear that he had in his hand in the direction of his own son. I'm trying to see. I don't see. Vayata Lamed Gimel Ki Chalai. Yes, the Mitzudat Zion. One of the Pshat commentators, in this case called the Mitzudat Zion, he threw it at him in a direction, not to kill him, but to scare him. Gentlemen, that fait complet. Now it's clear what's in the mind of his father. And therefore, the Tanakh shares with us what's going on in the mind of Jehonathan. What is it? Vayeda Jehonathan. Jehonathan now knows, without doubts, perfect knowledge, that what? It's gone. It's finished. The matter is complete. Gamarnu. That what? Lehamit et David. In other words, the anger of Shaul is so great that either he raised the spear, he's clearly showing what he wants to do, or even released it, and so on and so forth. Now there are no doubts. Pasuk Lamedala, this is at the table of the king. What does Jehonathan do now? Vayakom Jehonathan me'im hashulchan. He gets up from the table of the Suda of the king, b'chol yaf, but with great anger. He's fuming. But I would understand that he's fuming inside his heart, and he doesn't express outwardly anger. Now he's a Baal Midot. He has fantastic Midot. He doesn't express anything. And the Tanakh bothers to say, V'lo achal b'yom hachodesh hasheni lechem. In the second day, when he was interrogated by his father, he does not partake in eating whatsoever. Is he fasting today? What's going on? The Tanakh tells us why he doesn't eat. Some of you could probably think. There are two reasons we can maybe picture why he's not eating. It says here, Ki ne'etzav el David. He's saddened in regarding David. And then it says, Ki hichlimo aviv, and because his father shamed him. In other words, there are two reasons we can understand why Jehonathan gets up and doesn't eat in the royal meal here. Number one, he's sorry. Who is he sorry for? His best friend David. Right now, maybe he's even sorry for both he and David, because their ways will have to separate. The ways will have to separate, and David will have to scram, get out of there as soon as possible once he finds. But furthermore, second reason, the fact that his father shamed him. Not because the father shamed him, because the father shamed him for matters of David. He can't eat. His world is like attacked right now. He doesn't know what's going to happen in the future. He has trust in God, but he had hoped that David will still be part of the administration and bring success to Am Yisrael. This is the end of the second day. If this is the end of the second day, day number 3 is the day they set out to meet. And David will come out of hiding. What does Jehonathan do to meet with David? Pasuk Lamed 35. Vayihi vaboker. Vayetze Jehonathan hasadeh lemoed David. Jehonathan does not wait for an 8 o'clock meeting, 9 o'clock meeting with David. Once morning arrives, what does Jehonathan do? He goes out. He goes out to the field on the third morning. He didn't go on the second day. Why not? When he heard the answer, because they said in advance, let's meet on the third day. Now, if you're the king and you're really mad at David, you probably have private detectives, people that are out there looking for him. You got to really be a genius to hide out from Shaul. He has manpower. He has an army, police, this and that. But they made up for the third day. So Jehonathan keeps his cool on the second day and only goes out. But once morning comes, he goes out and maybe he'll be able to meet David. Venar katon imo. Now, I don't understand. Why does he take a young lad with him? Let's say he's his caddy. He's carrying his weapons. They're going out to shooting practice. Isn't it better that he goes out alone? We're asking that question. We don't have to answer it right now. But he's accompanied with a lad. They go out to the field, to the shooting range. Pasuk Lamed Vav, verse 36. Okay? 36. Vayomer linaro, and he says to his young, his caddy, the guy that's carrying his stuff probably, and he says to him the following. One second, I just had another page I wanted to relate to. This is not it. 41, 42. Yes. Roots. Start running. Mitzana tachitzim. Go find the arrows. Chitzim are arrows. One arrow is called a chitz. Chitzim are arrows. Asher anochi moreh. I'm shooting from the word lirot. Lirot is to shoot. Go find the arrows. What happens? Hanaratz. He sends the nar starts looking for the arrow. Vuyara achetzi laviro. But he shot the arrow to a certain distance. Okay. When it says laviro, he sees where the young lad is. He points with all his strength. He shoots the next arrow, and it goes beyond the Na'ar who's fetching the chitzim for him. And we're asking why. Pasuk Lamed Zayin 37. Okay? Why did he shoot such a strong arrow that it goes further beyond the nar? 37 Lamed Zayin. Vayavo ad-nar ad makom achetzi. If I pronounce it chetzi, it sounds like a half. You have to read the word chetzi. Chetz. It's literally written chetzi, even though we can use the word chetz. So the nar goes to the place where the arrow was shot. Asher yora Jehonathan. And then he says, it's like it's in the bushes, you can't see it. The nar can't find it. Vayikra Jehonathan achrei nar, and he says out loud, Halo achetzi mimcha v'hala. It's beyond where you are. What's going on? Is this part of the trick? Apparently, the system was set up in advance. We actually read it. That it depends where the arrow is shot to. And the words that he says, apparently David is hiding somewhere here in the bushes, unseen, but he can evidently hear what's going on. And now David probably hears that the shot of the arrow was beyond the area where the nar was. Pasuk Lamed Chet. Vayikra Jehonathan achrei nar. Mehera chusha, quickly. Al tamo, don't stand there. Go get it. All this is all sign language. Vayilaket nar Jehonathan et hachitzi. The lad brings back the arrow. Vayavo el adonav, and he comes to his master. Lametet vanar lo yada me'uma. What does the nar not know anything about? That all this is sign language between David hiding and Jehonathan. However, Jehonathan and David yadu et hadavar. What do they know? The sign language was what? That if it's between the nar and the shooter, it's close by, that's a sign that you can stay around. Everything is okay. But if it's beyond, it's gone far away, if I shot the arrow further away, that's a sign to David to do what? To go far away. The coast is not only not clear, the place is so dangerous. Pasuk Mem, okay? The nar doesn't know all of this sign language that, by the way, is it clear to us? The Rambam writes this and the Abarbanel writes this. It's something that we said beforehand. It's clear that probably Shaul has some people hiding out in the area, looking, watching, seeing, observing Jehonathan's behavior. What is he doing? So he purposely doesn't speak directly to David, but rather uses sign language. The question is, when will the coast be clear? Pasuk Mem, verse 40. Vayitein Jehonathan et kelav el anar asher lo. Okay, look, take my weapons, take my bow, take my arrows. Vayomer lo lech. Haveya, bring it back to town. Apparently they left the town, the city of Givat Shaul, and now apparently there's no one in the area. There's no one in the area. Okay? Yeah. So now there's no one in the area. Pasuk Mem Aleph, Hanarba, the young lad left, he went. And who comes out of hiding? David come. David stands up. Me'etzel Negev. He was hiding behind some sort of large stone south of the area. Vayipola pavartza. Wow. He falls on his face to the ground. Vayishtachu, and bows down shalosh pamim. Out of great thanks and appreciation that basically Shaul is about to save the life of David right now, and that he gave him these sign languages. What do they do after this is amazing. It's like Hadadi, it's mutual. Jehonathan submitted himself to David, he gave him his weapon, he gave him his clothing, and now David is submitting himself to Jehonathan, okay? And now they have to go. What do they say to one another? Vayishku ishetreo, they kiss one another. Vayifku ishetreo, they're crying. Why are they crying? Why are they crying?
Because they have to separate.
They have to separate themselves. It's not a happy time. It's not a happy time. And Ad David Higdil. David was even crying more and more. Imagine a grown-up person who has faced life-death situations in war against Goliath, has been almost killed twice or three times by Shaul himself. right now, after the coast is clear, so the scripture is telling us clearly that after Jehonathan knows that his father is out to kill David, so therefore he purposely shot the arrow to long distances, and this of course was a sign that he can say therefore that's far behind you, to give the message to David who's hiding somewhere in the area, but the kid doesn't know anything, he doesn't think of anything, and now the crying starts. The crying starts for a world that they cannot be together, they can't work together on behalf of Am Yisrael. It looks like it's a terrible situation. However, they're both confident regarding Malchut David. I'll explain that in a moment. Pasuk Membet, the finale of the chapter. Vayomer Yonatan le David, Lech Lishalom. Remember we said yesterday, God forbid if we're accompanying the dead, we say Lech Bishalom. We should not make that mistake. But if we're escorting someone, he's on his way, we say Lech Lishalom. I escorted you to the bus stop. Lech Lishalom. Have a safe trip. Lishalom. But when we depart at the funeral from our beloved, we say to the beloved Lech Bishalom. Go in peace, and so forth, because he's going to be in peaceful time for the rest of his duration until the resurrection of the dead. Amen. So here Yonatan says to David, Lech Lishalom, Asher Nishbanu Shnenu, we both swore, Anachnu, we, B'Shem Hashem, in the name of God, Lemor, saying, Adonai Yeh, Beini Uveinecha, Uvein Zari, Uvein Zaracha, Ad Olam. What a momentous time, a moment of bliss, of love, of faith, security in God. We believe in the oath that we have, that in the name of God, God's going to be over us. God's going to watch between you and between me. I'll watch you, you'll watch me. He'll watch our children, he'll watch your children forever. We want to end today's shiur by saying the following. It seems that Jehonathan is, an expert in strategy, in planning out, and how to reveal secrets. But we want to know, is there any significance that he chose this way of communication by shooting an arrow? Well, if we look up the matter of arrows in the Tanakh, especially in Menachem Bet, especially in Yecheskel, regarding the coming of the king of Nebuchadnezzar from Bavel, we know that the arrow, which is a weapon, but more than that, is usually the power of a kingdom. And usually the power, the ability of a military victory. Certainly when Nebuchadnezzar shot an arrow in the direction of Yerushalayim, then it was a sign that the kingdom of the Babylonian kingdom is on its way to destroy Yerushalayim. By us, Jehonathan, who so much adores, sees eye to eye with David, was willing to give him the kingdom without any problem. Jehonathan, he symbolizes the force of his father's kingdom. He's the power of his father. But more so, these arrows are symbolizing that right now the kingdom is gone. He could have shot, maybe the first arrow he shot was a weak arrow to get him to going over there. Maybe that represents the weak kingdom, his father. But the next arrow he shot was far away. It was the result of his force, his strength, that he shot an arrow. I don't know how many yards you shoot an arrow, 20, 30, 40, 50. I have no idea how long he shoots an arrow, but he shot it so far that maybe that will show that the kingdom will be David's kingdom in the future, and therefore, Lech Lishalom, and that's the end of the connection. We'll stop here, continue tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.